Welcome to the Flex Forward Podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nick Espanet, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Flex Forward Podcast. Today, we're joined by Steve Patrick. He is the CEO of the Level the Playing Field LLC, and I'll let him give you a little more information about what it is they do. Steve, we're glad to have you today. Can you let our listeners know what you do at Level the Playing Field and know a little bit about you?
You bet. So I train contractors who work for consumers that have insurance claims. So whether it be a storm claim or a fire claim or water loss or whatever the case may be, residential, commercial, if there's a policyholder that has some event that's caused damage to their property, I train contractors how to deal with unreasonable and even the occasional unscrupulous claims departments, and how to help their clients get a good claim settlement so that all the work can be done and the contractor can actually make a profit. Imagine that.
Yeah, so both kind of win-win. Well, that's awesome. How long have you been doing this?
So I've been in the industry for 29 years, and the first 10 years I was a contractor myself, and then I became a claims adjuster. Then I started my own claims adjuster licensing and training school, and I did that for a while. And now I go around the nation training contractors how to deal with claims adjusters.
Nice. Is there a lot of people doing that, or that's you're the first person I've met that's done that? But is that something I just haven't been in that world, or
There's very few. There's very few of us that train in this industry. It's kind of a small niche, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Market.
How did well? I guess you saw a need, which is the way to go with the business. You see something where there's a need, and you can teach people. So, of the others that do it, what sets you apart from the others that are doing it?
I teach things that they don't teach, and unless they've come to my class to listen to what I teach, I teach. Primarily, the thing I do is I teach about mindset, a person's mindset. And when they're trying to negotiate with someone, mindset is really important. I teach people to ask questions, not make statements. So if you're dealing with a claims adjuster who's maybe being unreasonable, the thing to do is to start asking them lots of questions. And the person, it's really funny. Hardly anyone knows this. The person asking the questions is in control of the conversation. So by asking questions, you can literally steer the conversation where you believe it should go to be able to get the client, the consumer, a fair outcome, a good claim settlement. And so another thing that I teach, and I learned this from the Jim Camp negotiating books, and also, what's the other guy's name? It'll pop in my head in a second. And it's to turn the question around. So instead of asking a question trying to elicit a yes answer, you're trying to elicit a no answer that moves you forward. And the reason why you do that is, 50 years ago, the vacuum cleaner salesman, they had 12 questions, and they would start with a broad question. They would get a yes, and then narrow it down. You get down to question number one. You've asked 12 questions, and you got 12 yeses. And as long as you can get 12 little yeses, you get the one big yes at the end that they buy a vacuum cleaner at door-to-door salesman. Problem is, people nowadays are wise to that, and they know they're being manipulated when a person is asking them a bunch of questions, trying to get them to say yes.
Makes sense.
So the way to overcome that is to ask questions so that you get the answer no. For example, I might call someone up, instead of saying, "Is this a good time to talk?" I would say, "Is this a bad time to talk?" It's a small little tweak, but they say no, and see, I'm not trying to force them into saying yes to something. Would you be opposed to us doing the following? A, B, C. See, I'm not
Nice.
trying to get a yes answer. I'm trying to get a no answer. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Or if they say, yeah, I would be opposed, well, help me understand. One of my favorite questions, help me understand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then shut up and give them an opportunity to talk. And then you continue asking questions, trying to understand where they're coming from. And then what you can do is you can hot potato it back into their lap. Learn this from Zig Ziglar. So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is X. Is my understanding correct? And they can either say yes, that is correct, or they can say no, that isn't correct. And I say, well, I'm really glad I asked because I didn't want to misunderstand what it was that you were saying. Would you
Nice.
please do me the favor and restate your point so that I can understand where you're coming from? Because you know what? They could be right. It's not
Sure.
like a clash of the titans kind of a thing. If they're right about that and say, you know what, you've made an excellent point. So in on this particular issue, I'm going to strike this issue, and I'll do that in front. I'll take a red pen and I'll strike it on the paperwork. That's off the table. And they see me do that. Now, subconsciously, they're thinking, well, this is a pretty reasonable guy. He's not insisting on getting everything his way,
Nice.
right? And so then I go to the next point and say, well, help me understand where you're coming from on this point. How did you arrive at your conclusions? And just ask questions and get the other person to open up. What I teach people, it's the same thing in sales. You should be asking about 90% questions and about 10% making statements. You should be finding out what the client wants, when they want it, what their issues are, what their pain points are, what are their time constraints, are there any other issues that they have that might affect them moving forward with go ahead and making the purchase now. It's the exact same thing. 90% questions, 10% statements. And
Statements. Yeah.
most people do not know this stuff. Most people, they're busy making statements. And they
That's
wonder why
awesome.
that
Yeah.
and they wonder why they get such abysmal outcomes.
Yeah. They're when I think a lot of people's nature is when you're getting statements or told what to do, you kind of put up a resistance. But if you're getting questions, so if someone's listening, one of our listeners wants to learn more about how you learned that. Did you have? You said Zig Ziglar, and I think somebody else. Did you have any books that you have read or podcasts, anything that you would recommend for them to listen to?
My bookshelf looks like the one behind you.
Lots of
So when I was I was working as a paramedic in Austin, and I decided I wanted to go into sales, and I was 26 years old, and that was almost 40 years ago. And so I've been a student of the art of persuasion ever since. So there's dozens of books, conferences. I go to every single thing that I possibly can because I figure that if I can get one nugget or one gem, GEM, right? A
Yep.
little diamond from going if I go to a 1 day 2 day thing and I only get one small diamond, but I can put that in my treasury and no one can ever take that away from me, and then over time I just build up my treasury, and all of these things that I've learned coalesce. And I used to be horrible at answering objections when I first started in sales.
Yeah.
I was just horrid. And what would happen to me is I would drive off, I wouldn't make the sale, I'm about halfway home, and then all of a sudden, pop the answer to their question, their objection would pop in my head, and I go, man, why didn't I say that? And so over time, I've just become so comfortable with sitting across the table from someone and conversing with them about their needs. And another secret that I have is I don't really care for me whether or not they buy or not. I care for them whether or not they buy it or not, but it doesn't make any difference to me. If I'm desperate to make a sale, let's say, or
Sure.
settle a claim, right? People can smell desperation. Of course
No,
they
for
can.
sure.
Of course they can. And all of a sudden now they're in the driver's seat because you're the desperate one, right? But if it's like, you know what? I think that based on my understanding of your needs and your wants, and the timetable and all of the constraints you're under, it sounds like that what we're offering is a really good thing for you. Um, you know,
A good solution.
What are your thoughts on this?
Then you're coming back with a question. That's awesome.
Always come back to questions. And so, you know, you really should be indifferent, even if you're flat broke and you need the commission. You should be indifferent whether or not this, because it's all a numbers game anyway.
Sure.
So let's say you're closing 50%. So if I don't get this one, then that means that statistically that the odds are very good that I'll get the next one. And and if I know what my odds are, all I need to do is hone my skills, especially on learning how to ask questions, and talk to more people. And in sales, if you'll do that in sales, or in the case in our industry, visiting with these claims adjusters and settling these claims. And so, you can't be desperate because they can smell that. And so, whether this particular one closes or not, hey,
Yeah. On to the next one. Right.
that's right.
Awesome. Well, what's one of the biggest challenges?
You froze up there.
Oh,
One of
I'm
the
sorry.
biggest challenges. I didn't
What's
hear
one
the
of the
rest.
biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your career?
Of course, arrogance. Most men have a problem with that,
Mm-hmm.
um, thinking we're all that. So I have a good dose of that, and the Lord has really humbled me, and that's been a very good thing. Um, Learning that I really know about 1% of nothing. That comes back to arrogance also, thinking you know
Sure.
everything, thinking you're all that. That's the reason why I've become a perpetual student. Because, I mean, of all the knowledge that's available to you, I mean, how much do you really have? How much do you really know? I know
For
about
sure.
1% of nothing. That's how
Exactly. And
much
that
I
kind of
actually
goes
know.
yeah, that saying of if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get in another room,
You're
right?
in the wrong room,
Yeah.
brother.
So if you think you're the smartest one in the room, you need to be moving too. Just get where you're
then
going to
you
learn.
then you got a real problem. That's that pride thing, that hubris.
Yes.
And it's a really wise person that says, I don't know much, but I know a lot more than I used to, and I don't know as much as I will.
Correct. And I want to keep learning. Yeah. I want to keep
Yeah. So I
gaining
would say
knowledge.
being a perpetual student and continuing to learn, go to as many conferences and things as you possibly can, um, and ask lots of questions from people who are experts. They say that you're going to become like the 5 people that you hang around the most. So I would
Yes.
recommend that you hang around, wise, successful people that you want to be like. That would be a pretty smart thing to do.
No, extremely wise. So it sounds like things are going fairly well in your business. And as a lot of people start having more success, they start thinking towards the future and how to potentially create passive income to either enhance or supplement their active income. What are your thoughts on passive income?
It, I think that a person would be wise to have multiple sources of income. Imagine you're sitting on a stool with one leg.
Hard to
How
balance.
almost, someone kicks that leg out and you're on your butt. But
Yep.
imagine sitting on a stool with 12 legs. How somebody kicks out 3 legs and you don't
You're
even
still up.
notice.
Yep.
So I have 12 different companies that I'm involved in some manner or another. 12 sources of income, and much of it is passive. I tend to be more of the visionary and not the facilitator or the administrator.
Okay.
And so my job is to have a vision for the company and for us to figure out how to make that vision come to reality. And um, there's 24 hours in the day. What would you prefer? Trading hours for dollars, which is what 95% of Americans do.
Sure.
Kiyosaki did a really good job of explaining this in Rich Dad,
Yep.
Poor Dad. Or would you prefer to have money work for you instead of you working for it? And There's some things that Kiyosaki teaches that are invalid in this book, but for the most part, talking about the different types of income and the sources of income is a very valid teaching in that book.
And that I would say 60 to
Rich Dad, Poor
80%
Dad.
of 60 80% of the people who are been on my podcast talk about that book and how it changed life. It's what completely shifted my mindset on how, having money work for you instead of working for money, and starting to find different multiple sources of income, different passive income, so that that it's what really got me flipped around.
Be very careful when you're invited into going to partner in a company, because not every opportunity is valid as it may appear on the surface, and you need to
Sure.
really do your due diligence to find out about the people who are in the company, and you want to find out whether or not you want to have your name. I mean, if you spent decades creating a good reputation, you don't want to ruin it by aligning yourself with, some con man or shyster or someone who's incompetent or
For
something of
sure.
that nature. So I have lots of people come to me with business ideas. They want me to join in, and I say no a lot more than I say yes.
And when that's wise, for sure. Same here. We'll have different opportunities in our line, but definitely want to know, like, and trust the people who are heading things up. Extremely wise, and then not even just as important as their uh, business model, but also trusting the people that are going to be running it.
And
It's
I had no expectation that these entrepreneurs and visionaries would come to me and want me to join their company and be a part of this startup. And I never really thought that I would, have that type of, I don't know, pull or whatever the case may be. Um, now I'm a visionary on 3 startups that I'm working on right now this year concurrently.
nice.
And to be a part of a startup can be rather time consuming. But being the visionary, I'm not as hands-on day to day in
You're
these
not the
things.
implementer.
That's right. So that affords me the opportunity to be able to have, my finger in multiple pies. So
That's awesome. So, Steve, as we're wrapping up the interview, you have any exciting plans or initiatives in the next 6 to 12 months?
um, I've got this one. We are going to get a specialized drone that's almost as big as a Yugo car,
Oh, wow.
and the camera is such incredibly high resolution. It's the highest resolution camera that you can have legally. There are limits legally because the government doesn't want you to be able to take photographs like they do from space.
Oh,
We can fly this drone up so high you can barely even see the drone flying, and we're gonna map and photograph every single roof in the U.S. and we're gonna do that every 3 to 6 months. And so if a storm comes through and has damaged a roof, we have photos before and after the storm so that you can compare the two and be able to very quickly determine what storm damage a particular property has. And that would be very valuable to the consumer, the contractor, and the insurance company. The insurance company wants to know if there was previous damage
sure.
prior to the storm, that they don't want to be paying for it as if it were damaged by this particular storm on a given date. And so we're going to be doing that, and we're going to have LiDAR on it. So it's going to actually diagram and measure every single roof in America as we go around and flying these drones. And the cool thing about it is it's going to have a flight plan, and the person that launches it, they can, I guess, scroll on Facebook or whatever it is that they do until the thing lands. It's going to be hybrid, like a hybrid car.
Yeah.
Um,
Pick it up at
and
night or in the evening and
yeah, it's
charge it overnight.
as long as it's a clear daytime, and literally you're going to be able to zoom down to the inch and
Wow.
look at any particular damage or anomalies on a roof or on a building, uh, even with the drone that high up, so that no one even knows that the photographs are being taken. Um, if you have storm damage on the house, on your property, your commercial building or on your house, it's an invaluable tool to be able to prove your loss to your insurance
Yeah.
company.
Wow,
So
that's very cool.
So that's one of the startups that we're working on right now.
That's very neat. I can't wait to hear more about that and learn about
Yes,
it. When do you think that'll be out?
Probably the summer of next year.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and with our listeners and sharing some tips. If anybody would like to get a hold of you, what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Really the best way to get hold of me is to text me. Don't call me on the following phone number, but text me. It's 214-244-2639. That's better than email for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Steve. We really appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to like and share any episode that you enjoyed.
Thanks, Nick. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.